Good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining us for our March 2019 customer webinar. Today, Christine Masters, Director of Product Management for Town News, is here to introduce BLOX Notifier, our all-new BLOX CMS application that makes keeping users informed with Facebook, Twitter, BLOX Now app, email, and desktop notifications quicker and easier than ever. And I'm Cherry Wolf, Marketing Specialist for Town News. The presentation will take about 30 minutes and a Q&A will follow. At any point you can type a question in the chat box, but we'll wait to answer them at the end. Today's webinar is being recorded and will be available early next week.
Okay, hello everybody. I'm Christine, and thank you for coming to our webinar today. We are really excited about talking about this new product today, and we have a ton of people online, so clearly you are too. So I'm gonna go ahead and get started. So a lot of people are probably familiar with what we previously called the broadcast system, where the idea was that we'd help facilitate broadcasting of articles and other types of assets out to multiple channels. Previously we supported Twitter and Facebook, but we're changing the name of that, kind of rebranding it, adding new functionality, and kind of incorporating it more inside of the editorial experience, so that it has greater use and is easier for you to incorporate as part of your workflow. So today we're going to talk about what exactly is BLOX Notifier, what it does, how to set up some of these new targets and channels that are available. There are also now automatic triggers and rules that you can set up to kind of handle a lot of the posting to other places automatically based on kind of your workflow. We're also going to talk about web push notifications, which are essentially a new feature that will be available as part of the BLOX Notifier product. A lot of people are really interested in web push notifications. There's it's a relatively new technology that is now available, and there's probably a lot of you who are not doing this yet, or who might be paying a lot of money for a third-party service that is doing web push notifications. And as part of BLOX Notifier, you can actually do that for free. So we're going to talk about that. I'm sure a lot of people will be interested in finding out how to set those up. And then we'll talk a little bit just about some extra things like analytics and troubleshooting, and a couple things like that that are kind of different in this product, and that we'll want to talk about very briefly. So just to get started here very quickly, as I mentioned, BLOX Notifier is a new application. You will see it in the left panel of your navigation menu. If you don't see that yet, you can contact our customer support team and they will help you install that. But most everyone should have that available now in their left menu area. This is the place where you can set up different targets. Previously we had Twitter and Facebook, and we're adding a whole bunch of new targets today. As I mentioned, you can do triggers to send those out automatically. So there's some automation and efficiencies that can be added as part of this. If you were using the broadcast tool previously, your channels and your Facebook channels and things like that have been migrated over to the new notifier tool. So if you're looking for where those are, you will be able to see them in the new notifier tool. And just to mention that even though the BLOX Notifier tool application itself is free of charge, some of the platforms obviously themselves have a fee associated with them. So for example, if you use the notifier tool to push out breaking news emails, the use of the email reach system has a cost associated with it. Same thing with SMS texting, which we'll talk about in a minute. That has a fee associated with it. So though there might be the underlying services might have a fee associated with it, but the BLOX Notifier and the web push notifications itself do not. So that's a great a great benefit that we were able to kind of bring to the table as part of this is to essentially offer this for free of charge so that you can really push out notifications and get your messages in front of more people, which we think will benefit your newsroom. So some new things that were added as part of the Notifier application. We now have the ability to push notifications to the BLOX Now app so that people who have downloaded your app, your Now app onto their phone will be able to receive those notifications. As I mentioned, we have the ability to do web push notifications. So people can go on the browser to sign up for a web push notification, and then when you have breaking news or other things, any place they're on the internet, as long as they're using, for example, their Chrome browser, and they're somewhere else on the internet, they might not even be on your site, but they're somewhere else on the internet, they'll see a web push notification, a little square kind of pop up that will let them know about the news or let them know about things that are happening on your site. And when they click on that notification, it will take them directly to your site to read more. So it's a great tool that is a new feature as part of modern browsers. We also have integration with email reach. So now your newsroom and your reporters, your editors can be empowered, if you desire, to send out breaking news emails and other kind of notification emails as part of the Notifier system. And that's something, again, you can set up automatic triggers to have those go out automatically, or you can empower your newsroom to be able to add new notifications and emails as part of your workflow process. We do have SMS text messaging. As I mentioned, there is a cost associated to this. We use a company called Twilio to send out text messages, and there is a cost to use Twilio. But I will just say very briefly, because we do get a lot of questions about this, in terms of the SMS text messaging, there's two ways to do that. There's either using a private phone number to send out text messages, which you can send out one text message per second. So if you have 500 people signed up for your SMS list, it takes 500 seconds to send out that text message. Obviously, the first one will get it in 1 second, but then the last one will get it in 500 seconds, if that makes sense. And then we also offer the ability to do a short code. A short code can send out 30 messages per second, but short codes are much more expensive. It costs, I think, more than $1,000 a month just to get the short code from the phone companies. That might be something that you're interested in doing if you are obviously part of a group where you can share that short code amongst everyone in your group. But if obviously that's very expensive for just a smaller publishing group. So that is something that is available. The reason why we're incorporating the SMS texting as part of the Notifier project is there has been some kind of renewed interest in texting as for the web push notifications don't currently work on Safari on a phone. It does work on Safari on the desktop, but Apple has not yet added it to the phone. So if you want to try to reach readers who don't have an app, then text messaging is a way to do that to iOS users. So again, if they have your app, you can obviously send messages through the app to iOS phones. But if they don't have your app, then web push notifications won't work on the phone. They do work on Chrome, on Android. But that becomes something that people might be interested in. So we do offer that. Like I said, there is some cost associated with that, and there's some phone number versus short code issues that you need to think about. A couple other things, we obviously do Facebook and Twitter as we did before, and we added a new feature as part of the Notifier application called webhooks. And this is essentially a system where you can set up they call it an endpoint, and we will notify that endpoint that some changes have been made or a notification is going out, and then other applications such as an external application, an external native app, something like that, can be watching that specific endpoint to see about when notifications can happen. So it's just a way to kind of integrate smoothly with external applications. So let's talk about how you actually go ahead and set up some of these targets and channels and automatic triggers within the Notifier application. So this particular screenshot is while you're inside of the Notifier application. If you click on create a new channel can be a single target. So in this case, the parlance we're using is a platform, basically the previous screen, all of those are considered targets. So their Twitter would be a target that you're going to send something to. Email would be a target that you're going to send something to. So out of all of your targets, you can then create a channel. The channel can be one target or it can be multiple targets, depending on what your desire is when you're going to be, what your workflow is. So you can say that kind of in this example that you see over here, I've got 3 different topics set up in my push notifications, which will go to my app and my web push notifications. And in this case, I have the news, sports, and weather section all set up separately. So I can create one channel that will hit all of those 3 targets at the same time. And so then I can say, I'm going to set up a channel for breaking news, and it's going to go to news, sports, weather, and Twitter, and my webhook. And every time I send out breaking news, it goes to all of those places at once. Or you can say that I'm going to set up a channel just for news, a channel just for sports, and a channel just for weather. And then I can send that to my push notification news, my Twitter account for news, my Facebook account for news, and my webhook account for news. And then sports might be all together and weather might be all together. So any kind of combination of those things you can kind of put together, again, depending on what you want your workflow to be. Obviously, from within the newsroom, if you're going to be sending out breaking news and you just have to click on one channel to send out breaking news, and it might go to multiple targets, that would be very easy for the newsroom. Or you can also set it up so that the newsroom is able to send one message to Facebook, one message to Twitter, one message to push notifications, and that allows them to maybe vary the message or send it at different times, etc. So there's a lot of flexibility that you have in terms of creating those channels. Again, you can have one target in multiple channels. You can have one target in its own channel, and you can have multiple targets in multiple channels. So lots of different ways to set that up. Once you create the channels, you'll notice a tab next to the general tab up in the channel creation panel, where you can set automatic notification rules for a particular channel. So just as the newsroom, as they're building content inside of the editorial workflow, they might decide that this needs to go to Twitter also, and they are able to create messages to attach to the assets during the editorial workflow process. You can also set up automatic rules that will create a message that gets sent out to all of the items in that specific channel as soon as those assets are ready. So in this case, the example I have is with showing I'm going to send these types of assets. So it has to be either an article, a YouTube asset, or a collection asset. So it's not going to erroneously send out tweets about images, for example. And it has to have the breaking news flag. It has to be in either the business or the elections section. And it has to have a keyword tag of #publish. Now, you don't have to do all of those things. You can do just these asset types and the breaking flag, for example, or the asset types of breaking flag in a section, for example. But it allows you to decide when you want to trigger these things automatically. I think with breaking news that a lot of people would want to set up an automatic trigger rule for breaking news that is somewhat similar. You probably, obviously, business and election, and then the publish keyword tag, you probably don't need those, but you might want to limit this to news, for example. And then the breaking news tag, and then articles and maybe collections. would be included as asset types. Then as soon as that article goes online, and it won't do it obviously until it goes online. So as soon as it's eligible to go online, the tweet or the Facebook or the email notification will trigger as soon as that asset is available. So that is a really nice way to be efficient. And again, you can kind of train your newsroom on when it's appropriate to use the flags and how you want that set up, and make sure that they know that as soon as they do this, it'll automatically send out emails and so forth. But it is a really nice way to be efficient and to have that happen automatically as part of your process. We also did something that I think is really awesome, that we incorporated the notifier information into the editorial panel. We've had several publishers over the last couple of months using the notifier application in kind of a beta period, and they've been using the automatic trigger rules, they've been using channels, etc. But this being incorporated into the editorial workflow is actually new as of essentially last week. So this was a nice new feature for even the people that were participating in our beta testing. So when you're inside of an article, if you have permission, so this might be something that you need to give permissions to specific groups, or if you don't want them to have access to this, you can take away the permission from specific groups. So maybe you don't want reporters to be able to send out or set up a notification, but you want your editors to be able to do that. So you can change the permission rules to allow different people to do different things. But essentially, if you go to the Other tab, then you'll see the Notifier accordion panel here. It used to be the Broadcast accordion panel, but it's now called Notifier. And in that, you're able to click on New, and you can create a new message that is attached to this particular asset that will go live either at the time you tell it to, or at when it first goes online. So in this case here, you can see that I actually created a new message, and then I sent it to a whole bunch of different channels, basically maybe all of the channels that I had. I don't know, I got a little bit overzealous there, but it will send to all of the channels. And then you can see that essentially as soon as this went online, or in this case, since it was kind of an old article, I guess, it went online as soon as I made that notification on March 11th. At the point where you're sending out the notification, you can change the text or the headline that's associated with that. By default, it pulls the headline and the information from the article, but you can change that to have maybe a slightly different headline or a slightly different message that would be included in the Facebook post, for example. You can also set, so in this case, I've got something that's going online as part of when the article is published. I've got something that's going online on March 11th, and then I could have something that goes online on March 12th. So if I wanted to, if this was a great story that I thought should be tweeted out 2 different times, once when it goes live and then once the day after, you can set up different messages that go out on different times that even have different text associated to those. So the first one goes out, it says, here's a holiday movie preview, and can you Star Wars, blah, blah, blah. And you talk about that, and that's what goes live when the article is published on its day. Then later, the next day, you could say, hey, everyone, did you see this great holiday preview that we posted yesterday? Find out more about J.K. Rowling. So you can have actually different messages that post on different days to kind of highlight different things about that particular article. And, obviously for something that has really good viral traffic, or something that gets kind of an evergreen story that you might tweet out, like a gallery that has a sports team, and you think that people will continue to want to go there over time, that's something that you can continue to add additional messages to, or set them up ahead of time so they continue to tweet out over time. And just very briefly, if you look at the panel over here, you'll see that when you hover over the icon, it'll actually tell you the name of the channel and additional information about the channel. So there's a lot of functionality that's available in this preview here. I mentioned a little bit already that there are some kind of fine-grained user permissions that are part of this. If you want to change how those are working for you, you can go into the particular group. So let's say the reporter group. And as part of the reporter group, you can go to the notifier panel. They can either have full access, which means that they can go to the application and change the targeting criteria and the automatic trigger rules, which I wouldn't give access to everybody on that. I would have that be a very small controlled group. But if you go to notifier and then limited access, you can say that they have access to read notifications and send notifications. You probably want to limit change settings, and that's the one where they get to create new channels and automatic triggers. But I would recommend that your reporters at least have the ability to read the notifications and probably send the notifications, or you might want to limit the send notifications to like your editor staff. So just let's talk for a couple of minutes about web notifications specifically. This is a very new functionality that brings a lot of kind of traffic and output on your site, a way to push out a lot of additional information to the public. And again, one thing that we're really looking at as part of this product is you really want to get your news out to the places where your readers are looking for news, and it might not always be on your website specifically. So you want to get your news in front of people when they're on Facebook, get your news in front of people when they're on Twitter. When they're reading their emails, you want your news to be there. And then in this case, whenever they're on the internet, when they're in their Gmail reading emails on their Gmail account, when they're looking at playing games or whatever they're doing inside of the browser, you can get them to sign up for web push notifications and then deliver your content to them. When you post interesting things or breaking news, they'll see that pop up in their on their browser, and then they can go through to your site to see that on their on your website. So a couple quick things here. First off, the push notifications requires a account with Google Firebase, and this is a technology that's available from Google. It's free to sign up for it and to use it. And it is the technology that we use in order to actually interface with the browser to push out these messages to individual browsers. So you have to create an account on Google Firebase. Once you create an account on Google Firebase, in the Notifier product, there's a settings panel. You can go to the settings panel, enter your information from Firebase there. We have documentation on this, so you can go look at our documentation. Then we have a bell icon it's actually a block, and you can place that block on your site. What I would recommend, and again, this is in the documentation, so you can look through that and see kind of my recommendations for how to set this up. But what I typically tell people is to go to a test section and add that block to a test section. And then when you go to that section online, you'll be able to see the little bell icon there. When you click on the bell icon, it actually opens up this really nice side panel that kind of scrolls in. And then all of the topics that you're making available through your notifications, either your app notifications or your web notifications, which use Firebase, will all be available over here on the side. The users can then decide which of the channels they want to subscribe to. And then, and you can have as many as you want. You can also have just one. If you want to just have breaking news, or you want to have important notifications from my website, any of that is fine. It will be the same on your Now app as well as on your desktop application. So however you want to set that up, you can. And but do note though that and I don't know if this is something that we're going to be able to kind of improve upon later on, but I do want to let you know that if you do create multiple channels like I have here, and you do tell a message to be sent to multiple channels and a user is subscribed to those multiple channels, they will receive that message twice. So kind of consider that strategically when you're setting up these channels, that if possible, you probably want to keep them separate enough that, if you have a sports channel and a breaking news channel, then try not to have breaking sports news, or keep it just in the breaking news area or just in the sports area, if that makes sense. So that's just, again, kind of the strategy for how you set this up. But once you have it on your test section, you yourself can go to that section online. You can sign up to receive those notifications. You're going to be the only one on there because it's just on the test section right now. And then you can send some test messages, make sure that everything's working, make sure that it's set up the way you like. And then when you want to launch that, you just move that block to the front page, and then everyone will be able to sign up for notifications on your site. So it's relatively easy to set up. Probably the main thing is setting up the Firebase stuff correctly, which again is in our documentation. But it's a very easy thing to get started, and it's a great new functionality that we have. So a couple other quick things to note about this, especially with the web push notifications. Google Firebase is in beta testing currently from Google. So they're still adding new features to it very frequently. One of the things that we expect to see a lot more information on in the very near future is analytics. The analytics for how things get pushed out and how many people are specifically attached to notifications is pretty, leaves something to be desired at this point in time. So the main way that you're going to get information about the usage of this at this point in time is by using Google Analytics and seeing when people click back to the site. We're capturing that those came in through notifications, and you can see the types of messages people clicked on, what they did once they arrived on your site, and essentially the kind of usage that they got from that. I will say that compared to just average internet traffic that we see looking on various websites, the people who are subscribing to notifications and who are coming back to the site, clicking on notifications to read those things, are very highly engaged, and they're a really great audience. This is to be expected just because they're not social users. If you have people on Twitter or Facebook, a lot of those people are just reading kind of one article and then leaving the site, whereas people who are using push notifications are people who are subscribing to your website specifically to receive information and news about your area specifically, and those are really great users. So we see very high engagement on those particular users. We're seeing engagement sessions of 4 to 5 minutes, and average page views of 3 to 5 page views per session. So they're really great users, and it's just a great opportunity to get them to have an additional session of clicking back to your site. So really good stuff there. Couple other quick things in terms of troubleshooting. We, if you think about what the notifier application is doing, there's a lot of different technologies in play here. We're doing APIs to Twitter, APIs to Facebook. We're doing, webhook notifications. We're doing Firebase notifications. So there's a lot of different types of technologies involved, in addition to just the notifier process itself and it sending things out, and then what happens with it. So there's a lot of different places where there could be issues with how things are set up or how people are implementing certain things. So we want to definitely try to think about troubleshooting as part of what we're offering as part of this product. So what we've done is we've built in a logging system that is available on each of the messages. So if you're in the notifier application itself and you can search through all the messages that were sent or that are slated to be sent. And you can open up the individual message, and there's a tab there for logs. The log tab will automatically be sorted to the date when the particular message was sent out, and then it will have all of the different notices from all of the different applications that you attempted to send this message to, and it will tell you if there's any problems for that particular message. So like if, for example, somebody says, hey, I thought that I sent out breaking news, but I didn't get it, or I didn't work, or something didn't happen. You can actually go look at that specific article and see what happened. So in this case, I had a whole bunch of problems, as you can see. In this case, I had, it looks like this one was successful, but I didn't have Facebook set up properly, so it didn't work. I didn't have contacts on my email list. This is just my test site, so it was all messed up. But yeah, you can see that there's a lot of feedback that you're getting here about different things and what was happening and what was not happening. So you're going to get back that kind of feedback. This will obviously, you'll be able to see here that if I tried to send to Firebase and Firebase came back with an error notice because it wasn't set up correctly, it didn't have the right status or the right keys set up, you'll see that type of notification here, and then you'll be able to go into that application and get your Facebook set up correctly, get your Firebase set up correctly, and you'll know kind of where the problem was in that workflow. Because again, there's a lot of different technology at play that, and anything can happen at any of those points. If you did see that the notification went out and you did see that there were no errors here and Facebook or Firebase did send out correctly, then you know that it's the next phase. So it went to Firebase, it went to Notifier correctly, it went from Notifier to Firebase correctly, and then did it go from Firebase to the particular user's browser? So then you can start investigating, like, did that user have their application set up? Are they blocking that site? And there's a bunch of different things there that could be things to investigate as well. So there's a lot of stuff to do there. Like I said, we're trying to provide some of those tools to help you figure out if there's any issues. There's also on our website, our help site at help.bloxcms.com, we do have a page set up that talks about troubleshooting. Kind of just says essentially what I just said in terms of looking at the different phases of where messages can go out. But if you do have any kind of issues like that, there's several steps on there that you can go through to help troubleshoot. So I'm going to do a really quick. Yes, I know. This is a complicated, complicated thing. But I'm just going to show this very quickly here.
Got lots of questions.
Yeah. So let's see here. Oops. All right, and I'm just going to show you a couple of really quick things. So first off, over here, we see the Notifier application. So in the Notifier application, you can see all of the messages that have been sent out and things that are in drafts for the future. Obviously, you can search by dates, search by section, search by channels, search by text. Up here, there's the gear icon. Here's where you're going to be setting up all of your different channels. And so again, when we're talking about setting up a channel, choosing the targets that are set up, and doing your automatic trigger rules, those are all available here from the channel portion. I will just say very quickly, in terms of, you can see all of these different channels I have set up here. The channels, all the different targets that I have set up here, the targets become available as soon as you set them up in their various applications. So if I create a new email list, I just create it in email and I make sure it's ready to go in the email reach application. And then if I come back here, it will be available here as one of my targets. Same thing for webhooks. If you go to the webhook setting panel and you set up a new webhook target in the webhooks panel, then you come back here and webhooks will be available as a target within your channel creation. So here's my webhooks down here. So same thing with Twitter and Facebook. So those are all of your channels. In here, these are your connections to all of your social channels. This used to be available in a panel that was in the settings, the just main settings panel. Those are all now moved over into Notifier. You can set up all of your different Facebook pages. There can be multiple pages, multiple Twitter accounts. Just as a really great use case, if you can imagine if you have a sports reporter who has his own Twitter account, his own Facebook account, and he's got a section on your site where he's posting, blog posts or different types of articles on your site, you could set up an automatic trigger for his specific section that goes to his Twitter page and his Facebook page automatically every time he writes an article. So there's a lot of great functionality that you can do there to really add additional functionality. So when I click on push notifications, here's the area where you'll be setting up that information from your Firebase account. So, and again, this is on our help site. If you look for, if you just search for Notifier on our help site, there's a whole bunch of docs associated with Notifier. And one of them is setting up web push notifications. And it talks about creating your Facebook, your Firebase account. And then it talks about how to get all the various keys and rules and things like that out of that. Then you put it into this area here in the push notification setup section. And here's also where you're doing all of your topics. Again, the topics are available on the Now app as well as on the desktop side. And I will mention this because probably half of you will not do this part and it'll be confusing. But we do have, for the automatic triggers, we do have a checkbox that has to be enabled before your automatic triggers will start sending out. And the reason we do this is that we want to make sure that, number one, you are absolutely sure that you want to be sending out automatic news at this point in time. So you're able to go in there and click that. And number two, that if something goes wrong and the messages are not going out the way you expect, you can actually come in here and turn that off and silence all of the automatic triggers. And then that way you can kind of troubleshoot if something's going wrong or if there's any kind of question. So that's a way for you to turn off and on the automatic triggers automatically. And I will just mention very quickly that we also have kind of some additional protection here in terms of a setting that says an automatic alert will not be sent for items that are older than this amount of time from their start date. So you could set up something that's even just like 15 minutes that says articles that are older than 15 minutes old cannot be sent out in automatic notifications. And that way, in case there's a feed that comes in and those things qualify for automatic pushes or automatic posts and you don't want them to go out if they're from 2016 or something like that, this is a way that you can add in some additional protection that just says if things are older than 8 hours, 48 hours, whatever, they will not be qualified for automatic pushes. Again, you can set that up to either minutes or hours, however you want. And then very quickly, I will show you just inside of the editorial panel, you can look at any article, and then over here, Notifier is available, and you can see all of the different messages that are set up. If I want to create a new message that's sent to just Facebook, for example, I can click on that. I can type a new message here that goes with Facebook. And then this might say it could be something very conversational like, hey guys, did you see this great article? And that will be the message that's on top of the post on Facebook. And then there'll be the Facebook news card, which scrapes the information from the from the article page and gets posted as part of that. Again, if you look at the help docs we have, I actually have screenshots for what every type of post looks like and where the specific messages show up in each post. So for example, the message up here will be part of your Twitter message. This will be part of your Facebook message. But then on notifications, it'll have the headline and the message there. So there's a couple of different combinations, again, that are on the help site for you to find out more information. So I think that that's the main thing for the demo. Let me just do view. And then just really quickly, obviously we talked about today the new Notifier application and how to set it up and send out more types of notifications to your community, and the main application is free to use.
Great. You ready for questions?
Sure.
Okay.
I can't believe you have additional questions after all of that talking.
People are really interested. Okay, so let's see. Okay. If you're already using email reach, is there a fee on top of what we already pay for that?
Email reach is, the fee for email reach is based on the number of contacts you have. So if you get additional email addresses or people signing up because of this, then that would potentially add to the amount, but there is no additional fee. It might increase your usage of email reach, but there's no additional fee beyond the potential increased use of email reach. Does that make sense?
Yes.
I think that makes sense. So
yeah, if you're already paying for email reach, there's not going to
right. Email reach doesn't
a notifier fee on top of it.
Email reach does not charge based on the number of messages you send out. So you could send out, so if using this product causes you to double the amount of messages that you send out, there would be no additional fee there. That's just the same number of contacts you have. But most likely you're going to get additional people signing up because of that, which might mean that you go up additional tiers or something like that for email reach.
Someone asked, what's the name of the text message company?
Firebase.
Twilio?
Twilio, yes. Twilio's text messaging.
But they don't work with them, we do.
Yes, we work directly with Twilio. As part of setting up that product, you won't see anything with that. And just if you're interested in any of those things, just let your salesperson know. I mean, again, we work with our email setup with email reach. We work with our app, so the Now app, and we work with our SMS texting capabilities. So if you are not using those currently and you'd like to ask about how to use those so that you can use the notifier product with them, you can contact your salesperson and they can kind of explain what those products do and how to set them up.
Okay. I'm not familiar with the BLOX Now app. Can you give a quick overview of it?
Yeah, the Now app is a native Android and iOS native app that we have built at Town News. And it is really interesting because it actually is integrated with BLOX CMS in that you're actually using blocks to set it up in your standard block editor. So you can set up using blocks how it will be how the information will be fed to the Now app, and then it shows you can create different pages in the Now app, and again they're run based on blocks, and and it's a great application that is kind of integrated and set up as part of BLOX CMS. So if you have another app that you're currently using with a different company, I would recommend, asking your salesperson for a demo, and they can walk you through all of the functionality that's available with that. And again, the nice part about the Now app is that it is a native Town News app. It's integrated with the block editor, and now it's integrated with the notification system, so you can have things sent there automatically.
Great. Do web push notifications work on iOS if they're using the Chrome browser?
Yes.
So it's just Safari.
But who uses the Chrome browser on iOS?
I don't know.
Not that many people. But yeah, it does work on Chrome. It's just Safari on iOS that does not yet have the web push notification capability. We do expect, I actually expected it to be part of the iOS 12. It looks like they're building towards it. They've done a couple of the features that are needed for push notifications, but not all of them. So I would expect that Apple's gonna do that soon, but they don't do it today. So.
Okay. How do you add channels that does not give me the option? I'm thinking this might be a permissions issue.
Yep, I would contact our customer support and just they can look into what your permissions are and how your specific site is set up.
Might have missed it, but will there be any advertising or monetization options with this?
So, I mean, obviously on the different areas, because there's many different types of applications that are tied together in this. So for web push notifications, There's not really any advertising in the notice itself. Obviously, it's the goal of that is driving traffic back to your site where I assume you have advertising. For Facebook and Twitter, again, there's not really advertising included in the news posts that you will see in those applications. But again, they're driving traffic back to your site. For something like the email application, where you're sending out additional emails, we are right now working with a company to do, we're hopefully about to go live with this maybe next month, to do programmatic email ads inside of emails that are sent out through the email reach application. So we're hoping to have more monetization options there. But again, a lot of this is about sending out notices to get people to come back to your site. And that's where essentially a lot of the monetization will happen.
Does there have to be a message in the notifier in the editorial panel for it to go out under the automatic rule? Or would it share the headline or summary automatically? Yes, it shares the headline and the summary automatically. So if you want to change it, you can, but it'll automatically be populated with the headline and with the first paragraph or the summary. Is Notifier available in a Total CMS update? That is a really good question, which I should have talked about. So I'm so glad. That was the one thing I kept saying, like, whatever you do, remember to talk about Total CMS. Yeah, so Total CMS. As you know, Total CMS is always a couple of versions behind the main kind of hosted website version of the BLOX software. Right now, Total CMS still will have broadcast functionality where you still have the same kind of Facebook and Twitter posts. Those will continue to work. They will work the same way that they worked before, where essentially the message goes out to the asset, and then it will be kind of stored with the asset, and it will be posted to Twitter or Facebook the same way that it was before. In the future, when this version of BLOX CMS becomes available on your Total CMS appliance, you will have the same capabilities of creating the push notifications and creating all of those messages inside of the Total CMS application. We did actually do some work to ensure that if there's a problem and you go offline, that it doesn't interrupt your Total CMS workflow. You're still able to work offline. You wouldn't have the notifier capabilities if it's offline, because that requires kind of obviously push notifications and whatnot to be part of an online process. But so when this becomes available in a standard future release for Total CMS, you'll have that same functionality available as part of the Total CMS process, and you'll be able to create the messages and whatnot. But like I said, today you still have the Twitter and Facebook messages that you're able to create in Total CMS as part of the broadcast, and then those will go live as soon as they go live on the website as they did before. I will note though that obviously if you're creating things inside of Total CMS that meet specific automatic publishing rules, such as you have the breaking news flag and it's in the news section, once those go live, those things will qualify for automatic publishing rules. So if you communicate to your newsroom that they should put things into the section and they have this flag on it, those things would be pushed live once they get to the hosted system and then they meet the qualifications. So thank you for asking that question. Okay. Is the webinar being recorded so I can watch it again? Yes, it is. It will be posted in the next couple days and we'll send you out an email with the link to it. You can also find all of our old webinars on our website if there's anything that you've missed. Okay, next question. Why do you have to save the asset before you can utilize Notifier? With Broadcast, you could do all your entries there and then save. I don't know if I'll have to check on that. I'm not sure exactly the answer to that. I think that at any point when you save, you can create the messages for the future. I guess you do need to save it at one time in order to kind of create the messages, but it doesn't have to be live
at the point where you create the messages. You can create the messages at any time during the workflow process.
So you don't have to save and close, and you don't
Right.
have to publish it. You
Correct.
just save it so it says, oh, this is a new asset, and we're in the system now.
I assume that's what the question is, but yeah, that's what I think that they're asking.
Do web push notifications work on Firefox?
Yes.
Is Notifier only on CMS or also on? You answered that one
Mhm.
already.
Thank you for asking.
Can you send a Facebook status in addition to the link? It looks
Yes.
like you showed that, yeah.
So and like I said, on the and I'll just bring this up just really quickly. On the help documents, there is an area.
And we will link to that
Yes.
with the webinar as well, so it's easier to find all this.
And there's this one post here that says, what do things look like? Where I've added kind of examples of all of this. And then it says, post or Twitter will use the notifier message field. So the message right here that you see that is kind of the tweet itself is from the message field. And then the headline and the summary here are actually scraped from the story. So there's a little bit of a difference there. We go through what the web push notifications look like, what app notifications look like, and then the different things that are included in each of those. So if you wanted to say something like, in terms of your Facebook post here, hey guys, this is a great article, please read it, you would actually type that into the message field in Notifier and it will show up here.
Okay, so along that line, how do the social media notifications surface? Does Facebook show the pictures in full size with the headline below, or is it half column with the headline next to it?
Yeah, they
So
show the...
that shows you how
Mhm.
it comes across. And then is Twitter sent with a bit.ly or shortened URL?
Yeah, I mean, Twitter will automatically change them into the t.co.
Okay.
We're not shortening them before they're sent to Twitter, so they'll be the t.co links.
And then can you send multiple photos with a post, or will it just take the preview photo?
It will just take the preview photo. And that might be something that, if there's specific additional features that you want in terms of how we interact with those external services, please let us know. We can, obviously, we already have several feature requests that we are working on for the future, and just let us know if there's additional functionality in terms of how you would like that to work.
Okay. If you enter the post in the asset, does it show up in the Notifier tab for tracking and editing? So if you go to the Notifier under Other in an asset, then when you go back to the Notifier app,
Yes.
does it show up there?
Yeah, as long as it's tied to it. So just as an example, if we go to Notifier, you can actually create a new message. And in here, you can actually search for items in your editorial application. And then that way they're tied directly to that
Okay. So
that
if you
asset.
set up a Notifier message in the asset,
Mhm.
and then you come back to the application, it'll be listed.
Yes. Yep.
So they don't have to go into the asset again to find it. They can find it from here.
Correct. Yeah, it's bi-directional as long as you're creating that message specifically either here or in the asset, they're bi-directional.
Okay. So is there a master schedule on Notifier that multiple users can see what others are doing or what they have scheduled? That would be this.
Yeah, we don't have any kind of like a calendar-y looking thing right now. That is something we're very interested in doing in the future. Right now, you'd basically just look here to see what the drafts are and when those drafts are set to be sent out here. So you'd be able to review from here what all of the different drafts are that will be going out in the future. But like I said, we are hoping to be able to do kind of a more calendar looking system, a scheduling system like that in the future.
Okay. Whew, so many questions. That's great. Will adding the web notifications make a message pop up for site visitors who haven't turned on notifications?
No.
So
Yeah.
do you have to, as a user, you have to allow notifications and sign up for it before stuff just randomly pops up?
Correct. Yeah, and I mean, there has been a couple of questions about this. So right now, so you can see here on my test site, and feel free to go to my test site, you can kind of try this out. I don't think I send out very many notifications, but I apologize if I do. But you can see that we've got the bell notification here. If I click on it, you can see all of the different notifications that are available. Once I sign up for one of them, it'll ask, and then this part is the browser asking for permission to allow notifications to be sent to it. We've had a couple people who wanted for this to happen automatically as soon as a user comes to the site. We're actually not doing that just because, in working with a couple of these browser companies, we know that the browser companies are actually planning to block this behavior in the future. So they want to have the user make a user initiated request to be added to notifications before the browser asks for permission. There's several different reasons to do that you can probably research that and find out more information about that. But that will give them notification in that pop-up. There's also kind of a floaty bell icon that we have here that also will trigger that same notifications panel. We're planning on adding some additional functionality in the future to get new ways for users to trigger to be added to those lists. So there's a lot of additional functionality that we can add there. But as of now, they need to initiate that a request to be added.
Okay. Some Firebase questions. Do the users need a Firebase, or is it our business that needs it?
Yes, just the business. The business is the the publication, or your paper needs to be able to sign up for a Facebook account just to use the technology
Firebase.
of communicating back and forth with the browser. A Firebase account. Yep.
Do you need a Firebase account for every site, or can you use one for all of your sites?
That's a good question. You can use a single Firebase account, and inside Firebase, there's different applications that you can create for different papers or different websites that you might have. I would actually, depending on the situation, we would probably recommend having a different Firebase application for different publications, just in case somebody gets sold to another group or whatever, and you want to send the Firebase to that. I will say just very briefly that, think of the notification, the people who signed up for notifications are very loosely tied to that list. It's only in that browser, and if they go home, they're not going to get their messages at home. So it's very much like, it's not a subscription where wherever you go, you're subscribed to that content and you're getting those content. It's not like an email sign up where wherever you get your email, you're going to get those messages. This is a very loosely tied just permission in the browser for you to receive those messages. So the user might very easily turn off their permissions, and then they lose all your messages. They might change their browser, and then they lose the permission to the site. If you change your Firebase application, you're going to lose all of your permissions. So it's very loosely tied in that respect. But because of that, you would want to try to not change your Firebase app, because you'll lose connection to all of those users that you might have. So that's the reason why I probably would recommend having a different Firebase account per site, but it's not required.
Okay.
I hope that makes sense.
Is the UTM info in the documentation?
Yes, that is in the documentation. It talks about what the specific source and medium are, so you can watch those. And we'll probably provide some additional information there. I wanted to have kind of a sample report and things like that we'll be coming out with in the future. But yeah, it does talk about specifically what the UTM information is, so that you can go look at that and create reports and whatnot.
Okay. Is push notification and email reach automated blasts redundant? Would you do both with breaking news and the daily headlines?
I would definitely do both. Yes. Yeah, I mean, for a couple of things. First off, I think from a user perspective, I actually would definitely sign up for emails and for web push notifications just for my site to get information, because if I'm just looking around the web, I'm seeing push notifications that alert me when something's happening, and I can click on it and see more information. And then I get email notifications in my email account when I'm looking at email, then I can see them there. So they're actually very different user experiences for the user. So I would definitely, for for most things, I would push them to Twitter and to email and to probably Facebook and to push notifications at the same time and to your app. So those are all things that I would assume that are very different spaces for the user and would not be seen as redundant by the user.
Can an automatic breaking news email reach trigger be set up to go out on the newsletter URL/template? We tested and it went out as an abbreviated plain text.
It shouldn't be it shouldn't be plain text, but it will be a text version of the article page. It won't be a newsletter as far as you're setting up the newsletters in your email application. So it's not a newsletter, but it is a article page. Now, if you're seeing, something weird about those, feel free to submit a ticket to our customer support. It should be a page that looks like an article page that's formatted specifically for email, and it'll have your logo and whatnot on it as part of that page. So if you're seeing something else, then let us know and we can look at that.
Okay. Our staff composes tweets and Facebook posts in Notifier for an editor to proofread before posting the asset using workflow stages. It seems Notifier leaves these pre-composed posts in draft. Is there something they should be doing differently?
I probably would have to look at that more. I mean, the Notifier will be in draft mode until I guess I'd have to look at that more, exactly what they're doing. If they're setting it up to go live when the article goes live, they could go ahead and set it up as a save and ready to go, and then when it goes out, the corrected version will go out there. But yeah, I mean, if you wouldn't mind sending maybe a customer support ticket in about that, and then I could look over specifically what your workflow is, and we might need to have an additional kind of phase in there for that. But yeah, so feel free to submit a ticket and we can go over that more in depth. I'd have to think about a little bit more how that would work.
If we schedule an article asset for the future, do we need to manually change the timestamp on the Notifier too, or should it automatically adjust based on when the article is publishing?
Yes, it will automatically. So when you create a notification message manually, the manual time on that will be the time that the asset goes live. So then as soon as the asset goes live, the notifier message will also go live. Same thing if it's an automatic trigger. Whenever the article goes live, the automatic trigger will go live.
Okay. There's a lot of questions. When will we have Notifier for Instagram?
That is a good question. We've actually been, Instagram has a lot of, to kind of have access to their APIs and different things like that. There's some complexities there. We are working on that. It's been a little bit difficult to get the correct permissions and get the correct APIs available to us, but we are definitely looking at that.
If we have the Now app, do we already have a Firebase account?
Very likely. Yeah, they with the Now app and setting up push notifications for the Now app, our implementation team sets up a Firebase account for you as part of that process. Or actually, I think they have the publication set it up. But so you probably will have a Facebook account as part of that. If you already have push notifications set up with Now app, all you have to do is set up the little bell icon and everything will work similarly to how it is set up in Now app. So that would be a very easy process if you already have the Now app set up.
Okay. Do they have to be a BLOX user or to receive web push notifications? Do you have to be registered on a site to get notifications? Not at all.
Yeah, it's just an anonymous user can come to the site, and as long as they provide permission from this domain name to receive notifications to that browser, then you'll be able to push notifications to them. They don't have to be a BLOX user.
If they have a Bitly account, can they tie that into the notifications to use for click tracking?
Right now, that is not available, but that's something that if you want to put in a future request, that's something we can look at.
Okay. Is there a way to get an RSS feed URL based on the content feed you set up in Notifier?
There is not. There's a couple ways to get RSS feeds that are based on the same rules that you would set up for Notifier. So if you're looking at, breaking news flags or other kinds of notifications, you can probably mimic those same rules into an RSS feed. That is a good point to mention, though, that if you are using RSS feeds for any kind of external applications, if it's possible for that external application to use webhooks instead, webhooks are far superior technology to RSS feeds. They are near instantaneous. I'm talking about like a couple of seconds to get a notification through webhooks, as opposed to RSS feeds where you might have like a 15-minute delay or whatever. Obviously, the application that you're working with has to be able to work with webhooks, but if it does, or if you're able to create a middleware application that will communicate between the two, it's a far better experience, better technology than just an RSS feed. So that being said, not everybody has that capability, but definitely look at webhooks if you're doing any kind of using RSS feeds to hook up with other applications.
Will the notifier automatically include a link to the story on the website?
Yes. Yeah, I think in pretty much every situation, there's a link back to the website, as far as I can think. Yeah. So like when you're getting a notification in an app and all that stuff, all of those things will link to the story with UTM tracking parameters back to your website.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you for giving us your time. If we did not happen to answer your question, feel free to submit a customer support ticket.
Awesome.
There are lots of ways to stay connected with us. You can come see us at the NAB show in April. We'll have links to our documentation specifically about the notifier. You can call our support line, or you can visit our website. You can share information at the partner community site, community.townnews.com. That's a really great place to find out what other people are doing. You can check out the service status at townnews.status.io. You can follow us on Twitter, LinkedIn, Facebook, and YouTube. And we are working on setting up our own notifications. And there's lots of emails you can sign up for. Make sure you're signed up for the webinar announcements email to get more information about upcoming webinars. If you signed up today for this webinar, you are automatically added to that newsletter. And with that, thank you everyone for coming today. Thank you, Christine, and we'll see you next time.